Afro-textured hair comes in nearly endless variety. From Bantu knots to locks to twists, our hair is strong, malleable, and beautiful. Only you wouldn't be able to tell based on the catalogs in video games. Black hairstyles are few and far between, and when they do show up, it's the same 3 options every time. An afro with clinical depression, cornrows, or better yet, this nightmare fuel. Oh, I'm gonna get into that later. Just you wait. And after a while of lacking, and by a while I mean 20 years, you start to notice. But the question begs, why is that? Why in such a vast and expansive world of natural hair do so few options show up in video games? Today, we're going to unpack how this is not a coincidence, but the result of institutionalized biases, structural conditioning, and laziness. But before we get into it, consider subscribing to my Patreon. I do Patreon exclusive videos once a month, and you also get early access to my YouTube videos. It is my theory that the ripple effect of de facto segregation is to blame for a lack of black hairstyles in video games. De facto segregation has a long and legal definition that I definitely don't feel like explaining, but essentially it is racism that flies under the radar because it didn't actually break the law. When Jim Crow ended, millions of black people started migrating around the country to find different opportunities, which caused the white families to clutch their pearls and flee. This was coined the term white flight. Who decided to make that rhyme? I just want to talk. Uncle Sam was there to save the day for these white families though. The FHA gave easy access loans to white families so they could move into the suburbs and away from black people. Simultaneously, they pushed poor black families into urban neighborhoods and deemed that area too dangerous to offer a bank loan. This is how suburbs were formed. It was literally a pushback and safety net for white families away from black people. And even though this was back in the 50s and 60s, these barriers transferred across generations. The ripple effect of redlining is how the country was segregated not by law, but by design. If you're white, you went to a white school, a white church. You ate, shopped, and socialized on the white side of town. The same goes for black people. This is still largely true today, by the way. The circus never ended. In many major cities, over 60% of black families would have to move in order to evenly integrate neighborhoods. The point is, the rejection of black people at the time also transferred to black culture. This made everything from our music to our appearance socially unacceptable. The aspects of black culture were on one hand properly preserved at the time. Since white people didn't find value in it, it wasn't being exploited. Many within the black community even feared a time when corporate change would take place to make our music and culture more palatable to mainstream America. One of the greatest examples of this is white rapper Eminem. This larger-than-life celebrity rose to fame in 1999. Make no mistake, Eminem is a talented lyricist and artist, which is more than what can be said about the famous culture vultures of today. Go check out this video by Lainey's Lens. She explains it far more eloquently than I ever could. However, his rise to the mainstream is the exemplification of the divide between black and white people. While he was not the first white rapper, he was one of the first to actually pay proper respect and embodiment of black culture. He never would have risen to his level of fame without his talent, but he also wouldn't have if he was black. Eminem himself has been long aware of this. Lyrics to the song White America states, "Look at these eyes, baby blue, baby just like yourself. If they were brown, Shady'd lose, Shady sits on the shelf. Let's do the math. If I was black, I would have sold half." Even in the case of black music, it wasn't expanded into household name territory until it had a white face on it. This isn't Eminem's fault, but it does, just like in Elvis Presley's case, expose the larger system. Like any other aspect of social ranking and financial success, black excellence is the bare minimum to even be considered. Black artists must claw their way to become valuable in ways that their white counterparts do not. Whether bridging the gap between black and white culture was a good or bad thing depends on who you ask. His popularity shows how much of an outlier a white man engulfing himself into black culture was. If society couldn't accept something as crucial as our existence, they surely weren't going to do anything for our hair. You still with me? This could be the reason why video games didn't have black hair and all of the styles that come with it. And when they did include it, it was incredibly lazy work. Take The Sims 3 for example. There are 72 female hairstyles in the base game, and out of all of those, only 2 were Afro textured. They both look terrible, by the way. You're basically forced to play with a silk press or perm if you want to be a black family. Black Sims 2 and 3 players were not well. Okay, when you think about the fact that only 5% of game developers identify as black, and it was even less so at 2% in the early 2000s, it puts a lot of things into perspective. When you're a white developer and the result of de facto segregation, and the only black people that you see are either in the workplace or in the media, you will notice a pattern. Most, and I did say most, of the black women had straight hair. You internalize your reality and project it onto your work, only there's a major problem with this. Black women did in fact chemically straighten their hair, but it wasn't for style, it stemmed out of shame and survival. Anti-blackness has always been at the forefront of society. They didn't just teach white people to hate black people, they taught us to hate ourselves as well. After World War II, when black women were entering the workforce, they had to straighten their hair in order to land a job. The odds were already stacked against them from the color of their skin, and in order to find employment, they had to try to fit in as much as possible. Magazines and commercials also pushed the narrative that nappy hair was an inconvenience.
I just love the way PCJ makes our hair soft and silky and so easy to comb.
Our nappy hair does need extra care, but these articles equated the extra care our hair needs to being a problem that should be fixed. They didn't have to say outright that natural black hair was bad, using words like silky and easy to describe the after effects of relaxers and straighteners did it for them. It was a vicious cycle that incentivized black women to hate the way their hair grows. The result is a mass of people who spend millions of dollars a year to straighten their hair. This narrative can still be seen today. Black women are 80% more likely to feel pressured to alter their natural hair in professional settings. This explains why the black women in your television and the few you may have seen in your white neighborhoods all had straightened hair. This is not only heartbreaking, it's damaging both psychologically and physically. Relaxers are potent chemicals that change our curl pattern, and if misused, they can be extremely dangerous. I personally have permanent damage on the back of my scalp due to a relaxer that I got as a child, which was done by a professional, mind you, all because I wanted to have pretty hair like the girls in my school and on my television. As a game developer, you may see this and think that black women would rather identify with straight hair, that there's no real reason to include other hairstyles because this is all you see. Without doing due diligence and just going off of anecdotal environmental experience, it results in black representation not being a celebration of our hair, but a reflection of the system that demonizes it. Now, this does not mean that there's anything wrong with the way that other people choose to wear their hair. I'm not saying that people who are natural are better or worse than anyone else, nor am I saying that people who straighten their hair or wear wigs hate themselves. Please do not use my words to push any sort of narrative on anyone. There are more reasons as to why Afro-textured hair isn't implemented in video games. Simply put, the texture of our hair is harder for developers to make. It takes more resources, and developers simply didn't have the technology to make Afro-textured hair that was detailed enough to prevent it from looking like shit. But at the end of the day, video games are rapidly increasing in technology and many other aspects. If we can get improved graphics, mechanics, and gameplay, then what is so hard about something as small as hair? Honestly, I'm also tired of pretending that Google doesn't exist. It would take all of 2.5 seconds to research what black hair looks like. For game companies to insinuate that they just don't know what black hair looks like is very egregious at this day and age. Mod and custom content creators have been making gorgeous, beautiful Afro-textured hair for years. The lack of effort on these studios' part not only indicates laziness, but also something far more or sinister. The games industry has been conditioned for decades that they do not have to make afro-textured hair in order to sell their games. Even though black gamers spend millions of dollars on their products, we don't get catered to because the industry has shown them that it's not necessary. Why would they use extra time, money, and resources into a venture that they're not obligated to do? Game companies did end up finding the kindness in their hearts to include one more black hairstyle though, the Killmonger dreads. Listen, this is a cute hairstyle. Most of the time it's well made, the fade looks good, the dyed tips are dynamic and offer some uniqueness and variety. But has anyone seen this hairstyle in the wild? The first time we really saw this was in Black Panther, and I don't know who decided or why they decided to pick this hairstyle specifically. Maybe this was the first movie with black people in it that they'd ever watched.
Wakanda forever!
There's obviously people in real life who have been sporting this specific style long before Killmonger, but the fact that game developers latched onto this one was jarring to us in the black community because we know that we are not wearing our hair like this en masse. We would have been happy with a high top fade, seriously. But what happened is that the black gamers who had been desperate for any sort of meaningful representation were really excited about this style at first. They thought finally a step in the right direction and showed financial support. Studios didn't say to themselves that they could get into an untapped market by offering more options in their games. They said, Killmonger equals money. That all they had to do was throw in a hairstyle to meet their diversity quota and it would generate more sales, which is a willingly shallow and capitalistic takeaway. I don't want to say that the story of black hair in video games is all doom and gloom. There are many great examples of games that have taken the step to include afro-textured hair and the many forms it comes in within video games. There are many games today that include black hairstyles and they're detailed and gorgeous. Black children have more options to make characters that look like them or the people around them, and that is something worth celebrating. This is a great thing, not just for the black community, but for everyone. More variety of styles will always be a good thing. The people that say characters don't have to look like you to enjoy a game should be cheering for diversity, because it'll ask you to practice what you preach. There's still a long way to go because gaming spaces have become increasingly anti-black. I think this exists more overtly in the gaming community than in the studios themselves these days. The Sims community has no problem making anti-DEI mods that take out all of the people of color in the game or uploading slaves to the gallery. Everyone dogpiles on Miles Morales' Spider-Man simply because he's black. They can say it's because of the game, but we all know the truth. People will argue to the death that Clementine from The Walking Dead isn't black, even though this scene very clearly shows her black parents. Did your eyes just glaze over this scene? Are you okay? Had the games industry taken the time to incorporate diversity in their games and show that it's a space for everyone, maybe they wouldn't have created an environment where people feel not only comfortable but emboldened to do things like this. The moral of the story is something as elementary as our hair shouldn't be a big deal, but just like every other aspect of being a black person, it's made into a spectacle. Whether it lives in what is said or what is not. This bleeds into many aspects of life, including the games that we play. And the best thing that we can do is pour our money and attention into games that show that they care. There's a new cozy game coming out called Loftia, and at the moment they have over 20 black hairstyles. This doesn't mean that their game will automatically be good, but it does show that they do care about everyone who's interested in their game being represented. And in this diarrhea shitstorm that is the gaming community, well, god damn it, that's pretty cool. If we're lucky, they won't make their black characters dance around like monkeys either. I think my biggest hope is that black kids don't have to grow up wishing that their hair was pretty like the other kids, because the media that they consume and the communities around them show them that it already is. Plus, our hair just looks cool. I mean, like, look at it. But don't ask to touch it. We don't like that. I apologize for my absence. I tried not to go too long without posting a video, but I was going through existential dread and then I got sick. But I do love when you guys clock my tea and show up on my Twitch streams and hound me about where my next video is. I stream every weekend over on Twitch. If you ever want to hang out with me, I'm just saying. Thanks for almost 20,000 subscribers. That is literally incredible. I hate to say it, but I think y'all like me a little bit. Subscribe if you enjoyed. A huge thank you to all of my channel members and my patrons, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.